welcome to the forum. We're doing a special edition today, and I'm your host, Ashley Tate, here with my co-host, Christy Largent. And tonight we're going to be talking about changing up the format just a little bit to hold a panel to talk about resources for our transgender community.
Did you know that according to the Centers for Disease Control, students who identify as either lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender are four times more likely than their peers to contemplate and attempt suicide? So please stay with us tonight as we talk with local guests, our fabulous local guests, about what resources are available for them, for the transgender community, and for those who are possibly battling with depression. So thanks you guys so much for coming. Ashley, why don't you introduce who's on the show with us tonight?
All right. So we are here with Carrie Jo Diamond, and she's the Executive Director of NorCal Outreach Project and Brave Faces Initiative. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, I want to make sure I got it all in there. And then we also have Cindy Larson, and she's a marriage and family therapist in private practice in Redding, California. And then we have Ian Riddell, and he is the Outreach and Education Coordinator for Stonewall Alliance. And finally, last but not least at all, we have Connor Wenzel, and he is the facilitator for the Stonewall Alliance. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming on. I hope we can talk about all those resources and really get people hooked in where they need to be.
So let's start by asking a really simple question, which is simple to ask, but I think the answer is kind of complicated.
Absolutely.
What exactly is the definition of transgender? Who wants to answer that for us?
I would love to.
Okay, Ian?
As a transgender man, I am happy to define transgender for you. It's really simple. Basically, anybody who identifies as transgender does not strictly identify with the sex they were assigned at birth. Okay, so the opposite of transgender would be cisgender, meaning somebody who does identify with the sex they were assigned at birth. So somebody who's transgender like myself may have been born and identified female at birth, and later on in life may identify as male like I do. So that kind of gives you a snapshot.
And just when you say identify, I just kind of wanted to break that down a little bit further. When you say identify, means that your brain and the way that you think of yourself and the way you see yourself and what the public sees or views you as, is that what you mean?
Pretty close. So your gender identity, you have that correct. That's how you feel about yourself.
Okay.
That's the way you view your gendered self. Your gender expression is the way you present your gender identity. And sometimes those two things don't line up. The way the world sees you may not be accurate and reflective of the way that you see yourself.
Okay, I love it. All right. And so cisgender, just to get that, because that's a new term I've never heard before, that would be someone who identifies altogether. Like if you think of yourself as a woman, and you express yourself as a woman as well.
And you were born and assigned female at birth.
And born and assigned female.
So 99.5 or so % of the population is cisgender, where 0.5% of the population is transgender.
So if you are identifying yourself as transgender, does that mean that you're gay?
No. No. Not necessarily. You could be gay, certainly. Your sexual identity is how you feel about other people, whereas your gender identity is how you feel about yourself. Okay. So as a man, my identity is male. I identify as somewhere more along the lines of bisexual.
Okay.
Right? So everybody's sexual identity is based on their individual experience.
Right, yeah.
So not everyone in the transgender community, which deals with gender identity, identifies as gay, lesbian, or bisexual, or queer, or so on.
Okay.
So I'm so curious because I know we're talking about depression, suicide. The statistics are quite staggering, and you guys can all probably speak to this, as to the transgender youth, the whole community seems to have a much higher rate of attempted suicide and levels of depression. So you want to address that, and I know, Cindy, you're a therapist, so maybe you could give us some insight into like why that is. And I mean, common sense tells you we could figure out it's a hard road that you're on if this is your community, right? So, but I'm sure you have some good
Well, yeah,
information
that
for
and
us.
the additional stigma that is attached with that. You know, teenagers are going through such a huge identity process with, you know, 13 to 18. And yeah, if they're questioning or they feel different than what they were born with, they're going to go through an extra identity step. And you can just imagine feeling and holding that pressure on that they can't be themselves.
Right.
That's then going to trigger self-esteem issues and could trigger depression. And then, yeah, the possibility of suicidal thoughts and action beyond that.
And they already have those feelings and thoughts just as a normal teenager in general. Just what kind of person am I going to be in general, right?
Correct.
So how would you know if someone's going through something like that? I mean, how would say I had a teenager and maybe she was going to school and she had a friend, how would she know that her friend's going through something like that so that we could get them to the right resources?
Well, I'm going to let you speak a little bit more on the transgender, and I'll speak real quickly on like seeing someone maybe struggling with self-esteem and identity.
Yeah.
Just someone that is like really withdrawn, or if you're just seeing a lot of the body language, like, you know, the slumped shoulders is kind of a big side, because a lot of teenagers, they want to isolate, but when you have that more isolating all the time and they're losing interest in other activities that they liked, or their appetite and their hygiene is decreased, those are kind of some of your red flags for depression in general and self-esteem issues.
Yeah. And then how would you, just to follow up on that, and then I want to go to the transgender side, how would you approach that? What would be the best way to approach? Because you might not necessarily think it's a transgender thing or depression, but how would you?
I think parents
direct
have,
them?
at least with IC, the parents that are more open, that is the more success for any type of kids. Open-ended questions, because you got to think, you've got to just tell parents you have to leave the door open. So it's worth, hey, have you ever thought of, or, oh, I remember I went to a kid with a school in high school that might have acted this way, what would you do about it? And that just opens the door for teenagers so they'll start talking about it.
Yeah.
Well, and on top of that, having supportive family members and friends is going to significantly decrease the likelihood of these young people suffering with depression and suicidal ideation. Certainly.
Okay. And go ahead. Tell us a little bit about the outreach center and how that all ties in here.
The outreach, we don't have a location yet.
Okay.
But we do have a number of support groups. One is the transgender support group.
Okay.
That is, it's for adults, but it's possible for, if the parent comes in and says, you know, it's okay for my kid to attend.
Right.
It's okay for, to have a transgender youth come to that group. We just started a Gay Straight Alliance at Anderson Teen Center. And that is a very welcoming place. It's all set up for kids too.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we do on Fridays. And we also are trying to expand that, try to work with nonprofits in, say, Shasta Lake City, Bernie, places that are outlying, because, you know, Redding is the center, but there's a lot of miles in between. So we're trying to find other people to coordinate with, so there can be gay straight alliances in the town.
Yeah, because they don't really know where to go. Like, how can they self-refer even if they are feeling something? Can they walk into your office and set up an appointment, or does it have to be through a parent?
It can be through a parent, but one of our other programs is it's called Safe Zone. And we started this at Shasta College.
Okay.
It was started by a group of students. Over 15 students have worked on this project to basically, we came up with a very comprehensive training program to let people understand what it is to be transgender, what it is to be gay or lesbian or bisexual. And once you graduate that training, you get the sticker, and the sticker signifies that you're a safe person to come to.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So that is one of the other programs that we have in town. There's some nonprofits that use it. We have therapists that have the sticker now. When we're just trying to actually expand that, so there's people who know that there are friendly people in Redding, California.
That's an excellent idea.
So if a kid wanted to self-refer, they could go to, we're hoping to get them into the high schools too.
Yeah, that would
They could go to that teacher and know that they're going to be
I think that's a fantastic idea.
with compassion.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Connor?
Down in Chico area, we have similar Safe Zone. High schools, Chico High, PV, and Oroville High all have GSAs also. Stonewall has a teen group, and that's a really good place for people to walk in and maybe they're not totally realizing that they're eventually going to identify as transgender or gender fluid, but coming into a space that's welcoming and allowing them to explore is a really good place to start. If they have issues, how do you know? You know, they're talking about maybe gender pronoun changes. I want to be called he instead of her, or they, or their, and allowing that space. A high percentage of transgender youth are kicked out of homes and end up homeless. Then they can't get the resources because they don't have the money. And then that increases towards the depression and suicide rates. And so having a supportive network is a really good place to get kids started.
If you saw a friend who was really struggling, I'm thinking of for example, high school kids. I can just imagine that's like a powder keg. And you saw a friend who was really struggling, and they dropped hints, you know, like, I wish I weren't here, and these other kind of things. What would be the first place that you would recommend? Like, if it were related, you had a feeling it was related to gender stuff, where would you recommend that they call or contact?
Regardless, you address the issue straight ahead, because
really?
a lot of people avoid asking the question, are you feeling suicidal?
Right.
And that is very important to ask that question. And if you are a youth, a young person, tell an adult, tell a teacher, but if you can't get to anyone, there are a lot of different crisis numbers that you can call. There's something called the ALEX Project, which I believe started in this area.
Yeah, I think it's in Chico.
Which is a text line where people can text 24 hours a day and contact a volunteer and somebody who does crisis intervention to be there with them and talk to them. Or there's the Trevor Project, which is for LGBTQ identified individuals who are struggling with depression and suicide, but anyone can call that line as well.
And they also have an online site, the Trevor Project, so they have text, phone, or text chat, and make contact with people that way.
And they also have a sort of community part of it, but it's a big community. It's you know, nationwide. So youth that are in a rural area, if they have access to the internet, they can join this basically group where they're supporting each other.
Because I think there definitely has to be a community component. I mean, I think obviously there are a lot of things that need to be fixed, of course, just in the way that lay people who may not know much about the transgender community or what transgender is, all of those types of things. I mean, I think this is a fantastic idea to start with, just so that people know that there are people out there supporting them and that they do have someone to talk to. I mean, I would take one of those stickers just so someone would know you can come and speak to me about whatever it is, and then you can help refer where they need to go. I think that'd be great in high schools.
Well, and another good resource I haven't attended it yet, but I've been getting the emails, is the Lotus Center started doing the monthly PFLAG meetings of like parents that have questions or kind of the supportive potlucks they've been doing. So, and I think they hold that monthly at the Lotus Center.
Yeah, that's actually one of the programs myself and another, a straight couple.
That's great.
What is our transgender meeting is at the Lotus Center.
Oh, okay.
And what is PFLAG?
It stands for Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, but it's recently been expanded to include gender minorities as well.
Okay. And gender minorities?
It would be considered the transgender and gender nonconforming community that we're talking about.
Okay. And so they don't, so transgender does not fall under the LGBT, or does it?
That's the T in
okay,
that.
but okay.
But it's gotten so broad that, you know, the term transgender used to mean somebody that started out as identifying as one gender and switching completely over to the other.
Okay.
But it has become more of an umbrella term of people that are somewhere within that spectrum.
Okay.
Because really, anybody has the potential to be part of that transgender community. If you feel like you have some masculine traits and you identify female, you know, there's not that
it's not so black
extreme,
and white.
Yeah, there's not the linear concept of female and male. You know, there's a lot of fluidity within there that really everybody has.
It's a funny subject because it's relatively new, right? We haven't really talked about it. It's not new in being there, but it's new with what science has allowed to happen physically, right? Has never been able to be done before, so it's new to the perception of the public. So as a community, even if people have mixed feelings, which we all have mixed feelings on a lot of topics, right? How can we be most supportive and loving? Because I think whether you agree or disagree or whatever, we can all agree that being loving is more effective than being argumentative or judgmental. And so what are some tips and strategies really for people who may not, quote unquote, agree with this community's choices, but they love people?
So I've had experience of having, you know, probably 60 to 70 different people migrate through the transgender group, or parents of the teen groups that I facilitate. And, you know, there's always these major, and I think you can support me, is parents and family members want their children to be safe, they want them to be happy, and they want somebody to love them. And so as a parent or a grandparent, would you rather see your child miserable and depressed, or transition and bloom and grow and shine? I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is if you love your child, let them be happy.
Sure.
But some of that is that you can't even control some of that. I mean, if someone's going through the transitioning period in high school, middle school, when all of those kids have identified with you as, you know, whatever you were born as, and now you're transitioning, I think many parents would go into protective mode, but they don't even know that that's happening. And so I kind of feel like the root is that person, right? Like they need to know where to go if they're having these feelings. What would be the first sign that I'm having these feelings? Maybe I should get some help before they get to that depression state.
So
there's a great resource called the Family Acceptance Project, which is based out of San Francisco State University, and they have done incredibly thorough research on the effects of rejection versus acceptance.
Absolutely, yeah.
For LGBT youth.
Yes.
And the outcomes that happen if they're rejected in
the home.
As an adult, they're at greater risk for drug and alcohol use.
Sure, yeah.
They're at greater risk for suicide, and many other factors. And so basically, the simple thing that they advocate for is to just try. You know, try to put your uncomfortableness aside and just allow your child to explore this part of their life.
But you can't control the public, is my point. You know, like you can be as supportive as you want at home,
but you can't control the environment, but you can improve it.
Okay.
Having a gay-straight alliance on a school, high school or junior high,
yes,
actually automatically
improves
the conditions, because they know there's some place that they could possibly go.
Yeah, and they have a community in that
And
situation.
Safety in numbers.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
Really being able to go home and have someone that they know they're safe with, and non-judged, makes a huge impact. I mean, adding on to that with the GSA and community support groups, that just makes that community grow larger. But knowing you can go home and feel loved is like the core, the base.
Okay.
So Cindy, as a therapist, I'm sure you've dealt with families who are going through this, and what are some ideas for the parents and grandparents, families of the person who is going through the process, right, of figuring out where they want to be, when they don't understand?
Well, I think it's just like we need to get the transitioning individual lots of support. The family needs support too. That's why they have family support groups, you know, whether the guardian, grandparents, parents want to go do their own counseling to try to process, and that's totally acceptable. And I think everyone not being fearful that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to say, I need to talk this out with someone and get some extra support. That's really what is the best unit overall for overall success.
And there's another resource that is geared towards families families and parents with transgender youth called Gender Spectrum.
Okay.
It's also based out of San Francisco,
Yeah.
but they basically find solutions for families.
That's great.
With transgender youth.
Yeah.
Because transgender youth, actually, most transgender people, whether they're adults or youth, realized it when they were really young,
Yeah.
somewhere between the age of 5 and 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that that's
8
a
is the
statistic?
average.
See?
Interesting.
And but they don't have the language
Right.
to deal with that
Yeah.
until they're about 15.
And how would you see it at that young age? I mean, we talked earlier, and I told you about my daughter kind of doing her. She likes Spider-Man, and she liked boy clothes and all that stuff. And I mean, she likes girl things now, but she's aggressive, and she plays hard with the boy. I mean, like, how do you know if that's happening with your kids?
I think that, you know, like some youth who change their what I want to be when I grow up all the time,
Yeah,
it's kind of just, you know,
fluid.
something, yeah, it's fluid. It's something that, you know, they're exploring right now,
Yeah.
and maybe it will be, you know, that's the future.
Yeah.
There tend to be some signs that are absolute
Okay.
indicators, or strong indicators.
And what would those be?
Such as wanting to be called a different name,
Oh, okay.
saying that, you know, you want to be the opposite gender, you want to
Okay.
be male, you want to be female, and you were born the other way. And then,
There's anxiety associated with their physical bodies
yeah.
too.
Oh, really?
More
Yeah.
than
Gender
normal?
dysphoria.
More than
It's called
Oh
gender
my
Yeah,
dysphoria.
bathroom, which bathroom to go to is a huge anxiety trigger for
oh my
youth.
gosh. Okay.
Even-
Having to wear clothes that, having to wear a dress was just horrid.
Really?
You know, it just did not feel right
Yeah.
to have to do that. And so there was a lot of anxiety. And
So those are great tips. I
yeah.
mean, I think those are great things for parents to know, because, you know, I'm saying that, but I think it's, you know, we just went with it, whatever it was.
Which is a
and-
wonderful thing to do,
Yeah.
because everybody goes through finding out who they are.
Yeah. Exactly.
Language, some of us get language earlier than others. Luckily, now having things like this where people can have that language in the household versus when you know the average age has decreased dramatically within the last 10 years. You know, back in the 80s, a lot of people the average age was running around 30, 35.
Oh, really? For the
And-
transitioning process to start?
Transitioning process to start.
It has to
Wow.
do with access to education and resources and programs like we've talked about today as well.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's interesting because as part of the whole conversation, I think as a culture, this part of the conversation is why does aggressiveness make you think you're a boy? Because, right, that's not a gender. Being aggressive is just
Exactly.
a personality quirk,
Right. Totally,
not a sexual,
And
or
that's-
it's not your gender,
It's a
right? And just
societal
liking
thing.
It is
pink
absolutely
not
societal.
Yes.
because you're not a girl if you like pink.
Yeah.
Well, and that speaks to kind of the core of all the issues we're talking
Yeah.
about, which are depression and suicide,
Right.
and being able to seek the help that you need. These children and people, anybody, any age who falls across the gender and sexual minority spectrum, they are not the ones with issues,
Yeah.
right? It's society
They're
with the
sort of-
issues.
yeah.
Exactly.
Society
Right.
creates microaggressions and anxiety and creates these boxes that we're supposed to fit into, and not everyone fits into those boxes. And you know,
And we
I
shouldn't
think
have
if
to,
we all
honestly.
got on board with that, a lot more people would be much more healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I try and use the example of the societal pressure. A cisgen female can go home, be wearing a nice suit, throw on a football jersey and some baggy sweats. Oh, I forgot something at the store. Throw some tennis shoes on, go to the store. Nobody thinks about it.
Right.
A transgender female, so male to female, they may not be out at work, so they're wearing a suit and tie at work. They come home, they want to be comfortable, so they throw on something that might be a floral, loose print, something that they feel good inside. When they go to the store because they forgot something, they get so much pressure.
Right.
Everybody's staring at them because they're out of that societal norm.
Right.
And so it makes it that much more. So when you have a teenager and kids going, oh, you're not fitting, then there's
That's
not
what
even
leads to
that
the-
self-awareness, you know, and that self-strength of, yeah, this is who I am. They're like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to be doing?
Right, because everybody feels like that when they're a teenager,
Yeah.
regardless of your gender. So we're kind of coming down to the last few minutes. So what I'd really like is for you to say again your resource, how to get a hold of you, if you have questions, and also if somebody is struggling and they need to talk to someone, where would they get in touch with you guys?
Sure, I'll go really fast. So the Stonewall Alliance is located in Chico. We do have various support groups and a counseling program that's low cost, no cost. And we do provide educational resources for family and friends and actually anybody who would like to learn more.
Right.
Great.
And then I can't say how much that I've had clients enjoy our local Shasta County group. And then for suicide prevention, the 1-800-273-TALK is an excellent national suicide hotline. The Alex Project, I have clients that have used that text line. And then also the other one is if you text help, support, go to 741-741. It's a really great national text line as well.
Okay.
And NorCal Outreach Project is the Reading version of Stonewall.
Okay.
We're still looking for a location, but we offer an adult LGBT support group. We offer the transgender group, which is called Gender Quest. We have a social program where we just get people together and let them be in the company of people like them. And then we have the Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays program, and Safe Zone.
I'm going to hold that up again so they can see that
Safe
sign.
Zone, which is at Shasta College. And I'm trying to think of the last one.
There's one more. It'll come to you.
One more is gonna come in.
Well, and you can always contact the station here for all of that contact number. I think we're going to give you some good numbers on the screen, and I really appreciate you guys coming.
Yeah,
you know,
thank
this
you,
is
Janice.
a kind of a tricky topic, and it's heated, and I appreciate that you guys were willing to come on and give some pointers and some ways
share
that
your
people can help.
experiences too. Yeah, that's helpful.
It's really helpful. I think we're all learning and growing, right, in all areas, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know our audience definitely appreciates this. It's a very timely conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, Ashley,
Yeah.
pretty good, huh? Good
Yeah,
summer
it was
so
great.
far. And we appreciate you watching the forum, as always. We have interesting people doing interesting things, as evidenced by our evening here tonight. So thank you for watching. And I think, gosh, we're like almost out of time.
Yeah.